So I'm no tips or tricks technician, but maybe my Procreate setup might help some of the people new to the platform out there. You shush. Check it out. Let me know what you think. All right. Here we are at my home screen on Procreate. The first thing we're going to do is start with a blank A4. I'll show you how mine's set up. So I always have it set to 300 DPI. I think it's set to 72 when you open it because that's better for web viewing. 300 makes the file a bit bigger, but it's better for print. So more than anything, the reason I start with 300 is because then every single file opens consistent. I started with that in the first place, I'll carry on with that because then the brush sizes are the same, pencil sizes are the same, everything's the same. So we start with 300 DPI, and then the rest you can kind of leave. Color profile, leave it wherever it is. Time lapse, I set mine to 4K, good quality. That's enough to do a little Instagram reel if needs be, if you want to do your time lapse of your sketch afterwards. Anyway, there's your A4. Boom. So we have a canvas. The next thing I'll do in the first layer is somewhere in here I have a paper texture. Now always lay down a paper texture first. 3-finger swipe down, copy, go back up to your file, and then paste it there. Always start with it. Don't know why, I just feel it makes things a little bit easier when I'm drawing, if it feels a little bit more real. So there's the paper texture. And then you lock that file. So if you're drawing for a specific area on the forearm or somewhere else like that, then personally I always get someone to send me a straight on photo of the area. So let's import that now. And then once you have the photo imported, scale it up so it takes up most of the screen. You kind of place it just right like that. So then you have your area there. So I'll now put the opacity down on that so it's barely visible. And you're going to think, what's the point in having this paper texture? And you'd be right. There really isn't much point. You don't need it at all. I just like to have it. It helps me. And then I lock that. And the next thing I do is I use body maps brushes, which I'll link below. That wicked little pack of body maps. I think it was designed by Gok is Dead. Really great tattooist. But yeah, I'll link these below. I find the area I'm tattooing in body maps and I place it over the top. Yeah, outer forearm. Place it over the top, just once please. And then this one is flipped like that. So you kind of sort it out over where roughly the bones would be. So then you get like a cusp for the wrists and like the elbows up there and all that. So that's another little guide that helps me when drawing a tattoo. And then you lock that. Boom, next layer. Right, when I start for the very first time, the first pen I use is an Eaglehawk pen. Always use the Eaglehawk pen. It's absolutely sick for roughing out some ideas. So, Eaglehawk pen is down in drawing, Eaglehawk. No changes to this pen, I'm just using it as it comes. And yeah, I usually have it set quite big and I just go to town. So let's draw something that'll fit this gap. A little eye and some tentacles maybe. It's a really great pen for just feeling the space, especially if you're filling a gap. And yeah, you can start edging your way down, getting a smaller with the brush, go smaller than that. Yeah, a bit bigger than that. Let's see, that's the one. And then just, yeah, start bringing your brush, and you can do a bit of shading with it as well. Like, it's easy, really great pen just to feel out a sketch, you know? And once you've, just get a little rough here. once you've oh, so booby and tentacles. All right. Yeah, once you've got your rough idea down, the next thing I do, turn the opacity down that, lock the layer, good practice, always lock the layer, and I bring up the peppermint. I haven't edited it at all, so I get the peppermint, and this brush is what I use for the final sketch. I mean, I'll usually probably do a more refined sketch after the eagle hawk, and then make it smaller. Like I'll turn the opacity down on this, make it smaller, and do the final sketch. But I'll do all the shading of this, everything basically comes from the peppermint sketch. The only difference is, the only other brush I might use at the end is, and this is only if I really, really desperately want to show it off online because I'm happy with the sketch, I might give it a little brush over with a brush called bamboo chalk. I turn the opacity, I turn it up quite high, maybe turn the opacity down a bit, and just brush it over. I mean, you could probably not even see that on the screen, but it just kind of holds everything together. You're adding a little bit of texture to it, you know, just to give it some. It's not necessary at all, but for me, I like it. It just feels like it kind of merges all the details together a bit more, gets rid of some of the brush strokes and, you know, some bits. But this is literally, I mean, this video is really just about getting the tattoo ready, getting a sketch ready for a tattoo on Procreate and what I use. But I'm just saying, if you really want to share your sketch before the tattoo, which I often do, because why the fuck not? You know, well, I'll give it a little vajazzle using the boba chalk. Boba chalk? Bamboo chalk. Okay, so once you've got your booby and tentacles half sketched, I'm going to turn down the opacity on that, lock the layer, get the technical pen out, which is under inking. The one I've got, I've changed slightly, so I've added 25% on streamline. Okay, that's all. That's the only difference to the normal one that has none on streamline. And that's literally because all I'm doing the lines for is to get the best stencil possible for a tattoo. That's all I've got the lines for. So, you know, this isn't sharp, it's not illustration. If it was illustration, I want it to be a bit more real. I turn off the streamline mode. For the stencil, I just want it to look great. I want it to be really precise and neat. And when I'm drawing a stencil, I always have the needles I might use in mind. So, for example, this tattoo, let's say it's not going to have a background. So all here is just going to be plain skin, maybe a little bit of shading, but whatever. This is the foreground. So here and here, foreground, background, I'll always put a thicker line, because I will do in the tattoo as well, around the outside. Whereas the thinner lines, I keep them thin, because I'm going to be using more than likely a 3-liner, a 5-liner to do the details there. And as for any shadows, I will dot them, because there's been a fair few times I've been tattooing and I've lined all the shadow markings that I've made as well, and I've been getting carried away in the tattoo, and all of a sudden I've lined for a shadow, and that completely ruins the shadow, and I can't then make it into a shadow. Or I can, but it'll be really dark. So I dot the ones that I definitely want to be shadows. All these little ones, I might not necessarily line them exactly how they are and use them more as a guide, but I kind of, because I don't know if you see some of the videos I might have made where I'm like tattooing or whatever, I shade and line as I go. I don't line it all first, unless it's a big flower and there's big surface area to cover. I'll shade and line as I go. I just find it a bit more fun. It's probably a bit better for the customer. And it means that I could pick out these little areas. If I line it all first and then brush it away, I don't want a grey line shadow. I want to whip that shadow out. I don't want any lines to be where I don't want there to be lines. That's why I shade and line as I go. So yeah, just bear in mind, just good tip is to bear in mind what needles you might use when you start tattooing the piece, and it will make it a lot easier when you're choosing your line weights during the stencil, because like I said, the stencil is there as that you want the stencil to be as good as possible, so that when it comes to the tattoo, it's just easy to follow. So yeah, think about those lines. Here's an amazing sketch I did of a tower that I made earlier for you, ready for this tutorial. It's really cool. If you want this exact thing tattooed, just get in touch, man. I'll sort you out. Now I'm going to show you a couple of tips that I use for more structural tattoos, like castles, towers, stuff like that. So first of all, we're going to get up, go into the spanner, go into canvas, drawing guide on, and go into symmetry, and you get some selections here. You get vertical, horizontal, which makes it horizontal, add 4, or radial, and you add 8. Anyway, I use vertical for anything like this because most of the stuff I make is vertically symmetrical. So on this, let's get out my peppermint, and I'll go over some of this amazing sketch with symmetry to show you. So easy as that. You're going to have a symmetrical thing the same either side, then use the symmetry tool. And I always do the hold the pen straight line and then press on the screen to snap it in place. Snap it to a perfect angle. And you can do that throughout the whole thing. It makes it very easy to make details. And obviously the snapping works with like a oval or a circle, even on the symmetry. Do that, boom. Then you've got some like half crescent moon window. Here's for a tip for if you're not doing something symmetrical. So up there, I'm gonna get out my eagle hawk and just rough sketch in like a side tower. Let's turn off the assist. I have my drawing assist set to this as a shortcut, by the way, so I can just turn it on and off as I'm tattooing. Anyway, rough tower on the side. Little support beam here, some side bits, and maybe a tiny window here. Well, it's not symmetrical because I don't want it on the other side. So what I'm going to do is just turn the opacity down on that, lock that mofo, and get up, drawing guide again, 2D grid this time. So you go into 2D grid, you know, you've got your settings here and what you want and the size and stuff like that, but I don't think it really matters for what I'm about to do. So your 2D grid's up. Okay, new layer, peppermint again for my sketching of the neatness. And with this turned on, every line you draw will be assisted, horizontally and vertically. Oh, I'll try to do that. So you can get all of your straight lines done first, and then come back in, turn it off, and then you can do your angled lines. So it's just handy for getting them first lines dead on. You may as well use it. It will save you, especially when you're using the technical pen. Bonus tip. I have a bonus tip for you. Just one last tip, and you're going to get this for free with this YouTube package that you're seeing and watching today. This tip is quite new to me, but I love it. And I don't know why I didn't use it before. I didn't even think it was in Procreate, if I'm honest. But I don't like how far this eye is over. I do like it. I tattooed on someone the other day. Don't worry, dude. Tattoo looks cool. But let's just say, for argument's sake, I don't like how far this eye is over, right? So you click the layer you want to edit on here. You go down to liquify and make sure the size is about the size of the eye, and then just push it over just slightly. Oh my God, beautiful already. Okay, now this is great. No more selecting. Don't need to go into the flipping selection panel, select the eye. cut and paste it, move it around, and then bring it. No, man, just get out the liquify tool and give it a nudge. Just make sure you're on the right layer. And it's beautiful, perfect. So yeah, there we go. Appreciate everyone who watched that. I tried my hardest to get the quality looking cool. I've never filmed down on an iPad before, so sorry if some of it's a little bit blurry. Yeah, if there's anything else I missed, or maybe eventually I'll do like a quick fire tips and tricks video or something like that. Anyway, if you can subscribe, like the video, you want to support, join the Patreon, and maybe buy me a coffee or buy something from my store. All links down below. I appreciate your time. I hope some of this helped, and I'll see you soon. All right, man.